Hello everyone, I'm Mike D'Angelo with That's Entertainment, and this is your digital download review of Rogue Legacy by Cellar Door Games. I've featured several roguelike games in the time that I've been doing these reviews. There's usually one or two things that sets them aside, like Dark Cloud's Diorama editions or Chocobo Dungeon's job system. One thing that I would never have expected is a take on genealogy, but that's just what you get when you settle down to play Rogue Legacy. There have been plenty of procedurally generated games across many different genres. We've seen isometric dungeons, runners, and platformers. So how does this game set itself aside from all of its predecessors? Following grievous injury to the king, his descendants work on finding the cure inside Castle Hamson. Plagued by monsters and traps, ever-changing in its presentation and guarded by Charon himself, it will take the family all the strength, courage, and determination that they can muster to enter the castle and restore their noble lineage to power. You take control of each of the descendants of the king and the prince. Along the way, you'll learn that there are deeper secrets among the walls of the castle, and despite the maddening changes of the place, the lie will begin to crumble, leading the way to the truth. The story is actually one part of the game that I'd want to tell you more than anything, but going too far into the details would just ruin an otherwise awesome concept. Just take it from me that it's deep, enriched, and philosophical. Like most game genres that have been around for a long time, it takes a little bit of extra effort to make them feel fresh. A lot of times more recently, you'll see this coat of paint in the form of an experience and level system. As you proceed through the game, you start to face increasingly difficult foes and traps, and you come to realize how necessary those upgrades are. Rogue Legacy's differences places a little bit more emphasis on choice. There are several different ways that you can progress the game, although perhaps the most distinct, and sometimes jarring, is its genealogical descendant system. When the character you're using dies, he passes his inheritance onto one of three descendants, each with different classes and traits. The classes distinguish the meatier part of the character. If they're a paladin, they're pretty much a well-rounded hero, with decent attacks and defense, but with little emphasis on magic. Barbarians focus even more on brute force, while mages are physically weak, but can lay out massive damage using magic. There are also other classes to unlock, such as miners, liches, ninjas, and more. That said, the classes are only the foundation of Rogue Legacy. The real substance of the game is on the trait system. Beyond just picking your next character based on attack and defense, you have to weave your way through their very DNA, determining whether you want to play as someone with ADHD, which increases speed, nearsightedness, which makes everything outside of your general area blurry, or dwarfism, which shrinks your character, making it more difficult to land an attack, but getting you into some tight places. Many of these traits have a potential downfall, while some are just for show, but it really is interesting to think about all the different ways your character can be affected. On top of that, the money that you earn in Castle Hamson can be used to affect your dynasty as well. You use your money to upgrade your keep, giving descendants more health, attack, a better chance at finding money and bulking up their classes. After that, you can spend money on weapons and runes at the blacksmith and the enchanter. You're tasked with using the money as best you can because when you're done making arrangements, Charon, the castle's gatekeeper, will take your money. If nothing else, it's a profitable business for him, as the game is difficult, though not unforgiving. At first glance, you'll get a very Super NES vibe from this game. It almost feels like Super Ghouls and Ghosts in some regards, although you quickly learn that the first visuals are just a base coat on an otherwise impressive portrait. The presentation relies on some impressive visual effects that usually hinge upon your character's traits and deficiencies. If you're stereo blind, for instance, you won't see your character or your enemy's turning animation. Instead, you see a small line, almost like you're playing Paper Mario. Colorblind and nostalgic traits cause the game to have a black and white or sepia filter, respectively. And then of course you have other more jarring changes like vertigo, which flips you upside down and can be a real pain to push through. One other thing that you'll notice is how catchy the music is. Though you'll spend a good amount of time in one of the four main areas, the tunes will never feel bland. And there's even a few opportunities to change the music while you're pursuing the cure for your king. One of the nice things about Rogue Legacy is how much value you get with it. With more than 30 traits, there's plenty of ways to experience Castle Hamson, and it actually takes a little time to fully accustom to each of the quirks. The bonus replayability comes from the upgrades and expansions you can make to your keep and to your character's equipment. It's also worth mentioning that Rogue Legacy was going to be even more expansive, with an experience system for your characters as well. Despite the fact that roguelikes have been around forever, it's nice to see that we can still get a breath of fresh air like Rogue Legacy. Even in the absence of its quirky genealogical system, this game would still be top-notch thanks to a clever story, tight gameplay, and addictive momentum. That's Entertainment awards Rogue Legacy a score of 9 out of 10.